All right, let's break down one of the most frustrating experiences in performance, choking under pressure. Whether you're in sports, business, or really any part of life, just understanding what's going on in your mind and your body. Well, that's the first real step to getting back in control.
Yeah, that feeling is something we can all recognize, right? It's that moment, the pressure builds, and then all of a sudden, everything just seems to fall apart. That's what we call choking. And honestly, it's a pretty universal experience for anyone who's really pushing their limits.
Okay, so let's get one thing straight right away. Choking isn't about you lacking skill. It's really a specific event, something that happens in both your mind and body when that combination of mental worry and physical tension just completely overwhelms your system. So to really get a handle on this, we first have to look at the anatomy of anxiety itself. You see, to understand choking, we have to recognize that anxiety isn't just one single feeling. It actually has two very distinct sides.
So on one hand, you've got cognitive anxiety. That's all the mental stuff, the negative thoughts, the worry, that what if I fail voice running through your head. And on the other hand, you have somatic anxiety, which is purely physical. We're talking about the butterflies in your stomach, tense muscles, a racing heart. You know the feeling.
We can also look at anxiety based on when it shows up. So there's something called state anxiety, which is temporary. It's tied to a specific situation, like taking a penalty kick. But then there's trait anxiety, which is more of a personality characteristic. Some people are just naturally more anxious. Understanding which one you're dealing with is really key to predicting when you might be most vulnerable.
All right, so how do these different types of anxiety lead to that tipping point? Let's dig into the exact moment when performance doesn't just dip, but completely collapses.
And that's the key question, isn't it? Why doesn't your performance just dip a little bit? Why does it sometimes feel like a total system failure? Well, a couple of theories actually give us a pretty clear picture.
So, one classic model is the inverted U hypothesis. Just picture a bell curve. Your performance is at its best with a moderate level of physical arousal. If you have too little, you're not engaged. Too much, and your performance starts to decline. But this doesn't really tell the whole story when it comes to choking.
A more accurate model, especially for choking, is called catastrophe theory. What this theory explains is that when high mental worry, that cognitive anxiety, combines with high physical arousal, your performance doesn't just gradually decline, it literally falls off a cliff. And it's that sudden, dramatic collapse that really defines what it feels like to choke. So what's actually happening in your body during this collapse? Well, two main things go wrong. First, your muscles get way too tense, and that messes with your coordination and fine motor skills. Second, your attention narrows so much that you get a kind of tunnel vision, which causes you to miss really important cues around you.
So this brings us to a really practical question. If this collapse is coming, can you actually see it ahead of time? The answer is yes. You just have to learn what to look for and what to listen for.
You see, your body and your mind send out some pretty clear signals when anxiety is getting too high. Physically, you might notice cold hands, start sweating, or feel those butterflies. And mentally, that negative self-talk might start creeping in, or you'll just find you can't concentrate. Recognizing these signs early, that's the absolute first step to doing something about it.
Okay, so once you recognize the signs, what do you actually do? This next section is all about a simple but really powerful framework for taking back control. I want you to think of managing your internal state like you're controlling a thermostat. See, everyone has an optimal temperature for peak performance. Your job is to figure out your ideal setting and then learn how to adjust it up or down when the pressure changes.
We can break this down into 3 simple phases. First, before the competition, you use your routines, things like imagery or breathing exercises, to set your thermostat to its optimal level. Then, during a high-pressure moment, your job is to notice those warning signs we talked about and actively reset. And finally, after a mistake, it's all about releasing that negative thought and rebuilding, getting back to your ideal zone instead of letting things spiral.
So really, the crucial point is this. Choking doesn't have to be your fate. It's actually a manageable process. By learning to recognize the signs and regulate your internal state, you can absolutely stay in control and perform at your true ability, even when the pressure is at its highest.
So that leaves us with a final question to think about. In those big moments, are you controlling your pressure, or is it controlling you? Next time, we'll dive into the specific techniques you can use to actually set that thermostat and stay calm before a big performance.